It's Monday on Daily Delivery. Michael Rand here. Patrick Reusse with me as well. Probably enough happened in the last 3 days, Patrick, to fill 3, 4 shows. We're just gonna do one. But man, the collapses of two football teams over the weekend. Feels like the season's over for both, and it's not even October yet, but we can talk about that in a little bit. The Twins, oh, by the way, clinched the AL Central on Friday, and they won again yesterday. They are cruising towards the playoffs now. Looks like they will almost certainly be the third division winner, like we thought all along, and they'll play somebody. Looks more and more like it's going to be either Houston or Seattle, because Texas now has a 2.5 game lead in the AL West. But Patrick, we got to start with the football, and even though we're not going to take them in order, we got to start with the Vikings because that's the freshest. We'll get to the Gophers because that might have been, for as bad as the Vikings were yesterday, the Gophers were worse in their collapse on Saturday. But what do you make of now a team, Patrick, that's 0-3 and seems to be kind of back in this mode of reinventing ways to lose?
Well, I think first of all, we should all line up and give an apology to Ed Donatel for one thing.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
couldn't wait to run Ed out of town. Ed's defense was terrible. I couldn't stand to watch it, but this hadn't been any better.
No.
Man alive, this was terrible. No pressure on the court. We were gonna learn how we were going to show how we can pressure the quarterback and be much more aggressive. And all that aggressiveness it has done so far is expose some really bad short cornerbacks who can't stop anybody. My suggestion here was after Keenan Allen has had like 12, 13 catches, maybe you should start paying a little extra attention. Don't you?
Yeah.
Here's what's amazing. He only had 20 targets and he had 18 catches. That's impossible.
Seems like a lot.
The
Yeah.
greatest receivers in history have never gone 18 for 20 catching passes. It was pathetic defense. And I went back and looked again at the chaos at the end of the game.
Yeah.
You're paying this quarterback 35 million and everybody's telling you, oh, he's one of the greatest ever. Well, how long does he think a guy should sit around holding his ears saying he doesn't know what the play is
Right.
before he spikes the ball? But how long should you wait until you only have one play
Just
left?
go do
Just
something.
go. What a dummy. And also, they're saying that pass was tipped. It was a bad pass that the receiver couldn't get, who ended up tipping it. That's what happened.
Yeah,
In my opinion, it was, Cousins is getting a free ride here for it was a tip pass. Well, it was either that or going to be an incomplete pass, and that was a bad throw by him after a extremely idiotic period of time when he didn't spike the ball. I mean, O'Connell, here's this idea that you don't want them to be able to change their defensive players. It's the difference between running 3 plays and one now.
It was, because it was down to 12 seconds, wasn't it, when they snapped it?
Yes, they had plenty of time, and you got a defense out there, and their only thought in their head is, why did that idiot coach of ours put us on the 24-yard line? That's
you've got yes.
We're a terrible defense, and this dummy put us on the 24-yard line, and he's going to get fired. That's your only thought. And then meanwhile, I mean, and the other thing is they were down there 2.5 minutes earlier, and
at the one.
Yeah.
It was second and goal at the 1.
Now, the only difference is from the 1, Fleck might have punted. So that's the only difference. But Yeah, it was. They were down there twice and got to
Yes.
win the game and got nothing out of it either time. So it was brutal. I mean, the numbers are gaudy to say the least. And Jefferson, just running away from everybody on a little on a deep slant, basically, is incredible. But I don't know. You got your superstar wide receiver who you haven't paid yet, 1 yard shy of being the first player to ever start the season with 350-yard games, and you're 0-3. How do you do
I
that?
know.
That's
I know.
now there are people saying they kicked away 3 games. They were never going to beat Philadelphia. I don't think. Now when you
Correct.
250 yards rushing or from the one guy, but they certainly did lose 2 home games that they should not have lost. And now the glorious NFC North, you have 2 teams with 2 wins. So
Yes.
the Bears, they came back for 10 points in the fourth quarter. Look out for those Bears. How much fun would you have writing about them in Chicago? But anyway, it was an awful loss. And O'Connell was, he's got to go in and apologize for some things he did wrong, for the third straight time or something. But you they make a personnel change. They don't have any great personnel to put on the field, that's going to stop you. Their defense has been terrible. So what difference does it make? Take your time and find out what you want to run and score and win the game. Yeah, that was idiotic. But then again, who warned the entirety of Minnesota sports fans that the football gods would get their revenge?
You did.
Who started saying
you
that?
Did.
It's a lie.
You did.
That they would, that they were going to, you win 11. You win every one of your one-score games, several in miraculous fashion.
Yes.
That ain't going to work again. And we've proven that already. That's 4 straight losses in one-score games.
Going back to the playoffs.
Yeah. So,
it's unbelievable.
Their defense is terrible once again. I don't know what you can do about it. Their secondary. I mean, who are these guys that they're playing? They got
who are these guys anywhere aside from Danielle Hunter? And I mean, Harrison Smith is still a name brand. Who are the name brands? Marcus Davenport's played like 4 snaps this year.
Yeah, did he have some kind of a monster either? He
had half a sack last year. We're gonna miss that.
There's no big market for him, and the big loss really, and it was losing that Tomlinson.
Yes, absolutely.
Big old fella in the middle of the line, so they couldn't just run through you when they wanted to. Although the Herbert's 40 completions, the most ever in a regulation game against the Vikings. The only according to my stat guy who sent that to me, they've never had 40 in a regulation game. The record was the second most ever completions. Drew Bledsoe 45 in an overtime game in New England in 1994.
I remember that game.
I was 45 for 70.
I remember that game.
This guy was 40 for 49?
Yeah,
47 or something.
Well, quarterbacks this year are 80 for 105 against the Vikings, 76.2% completion rate.
Yeah, Philadelphia has stopped trying to throw against them because they were having fun running against them. But and this is okay. The guy yesterday's great, but one of them is Baker Mayfield, and the other is Jalen Hurts having a bad day, and they're 80 out of 105. So, it's just the. It's now we're going to probably end up getting a big lecture as fans. Don't make noise when your team's down on
right
down on the 10-yard line or 5 something.
Quiet down. It's Well, and to me, it's not just that they're 0-3, and you can remove some of the. You can try to remove some of the randomness from this and say, yes, the fumbles are weird. The way they've lost at the end is weird. It's different than last year, but it's still it just doesn't feel like a very good team. It just feels like This is the NFL, like you say a lot. This is the NFL. This is how it's played these days with just the weirdness that comes down to the end. You've got to be able to win those games or put yourself in a position where you aren't in that spot at the end where you have to rely on some, one play that might be weird with the bounces. And to me, it's not just that they're 0-3, but how they've looked doing it and who they've done it against. Like you said, like 2 home games that in retrospect, and even with foresight, you probably put these down as wins. Even if you thought the Chargers were going to be decent this year, you're like, okay, that's probably a team they should win. If they're going to be a division winner, Tampa Bay and the Chargers have to be wins, and both of them now are losses. So now you look at when they actually play better teams. How are they going to beat better teams? They weren't even on the same field as the Eagles until they made that thing close late. Like that game was 27-7 at one point, wasn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
they're just not very good. They don't have a lot of
No,
good players anymore.
no, the offensive line's a little beat up and not, Bradbury allegedly had a decent year last year, but everybody likes to blame the offensive line, but you got to, if you watch Herbert yesterday compare to Cousins, there was some pressure and he stepped away from it and made a throw.
Yes.
And we got a guy who stands there and gets hit. And we're supposed to, the fans are supposed to feel sorry for him. Getting hit is partially on the quarterback.
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers running out of the pocket and Tom Brady stepping around in the pocket. Tom Brady could always take one step and be out of trouble. And this guy doesn't have that skill. And people love to look at the big numbers and laud him. And there's the whole Kirk, it's not the quarterback's fault. Well, yesterday he made the bet. They were inside the 10-yard line twice in the last 3 minutes and they didn't score. So that's on the quarterback to a good extent to me. Neither of the throws were very good. So
the fourth down throw when they were down at the goal line, that would have been short of the goal line again, by the way. Even if Jefferson would have caught it, he would have been down at like the 1 or the if that. So it was 4th and goal from the 2 and you can't even throw in the end zone.
How much time was left the first time they were down there?
It was about I think it was about 2. No, it was a little over 2 minutes because they
what I thought, but it's under 3 minutes. They were down there twice under 3 minutes,
yes,
right?
Twice under 3 minutes, and then then the Chargers. Like I slightly got the reasoning of Staley. Staley made some curious decisions yesterday, including when they declined the penalty. That was the one that I thought was even just as strange, and maybe not as magnified. But they declined the penalty right before the Vikings got that. The one they got the 4th down where they got to Osborne. It was like it was 3rd and 10 from the 36, and they got an incompletion where there was a holding penalty, and it was 3rd and 6. They declined it. So instead of having 3rd and 16 from the 46, they decided to let them have 4th and 6 from the 36, where they could have either tried a field goal or go for it, and they go for it, get the touchdown that gets them into the game. And then, the one at the 24 is like, you must really hate your defense if you think that you should do that.
Yeah.
But
the 24 is a little too close for me.
Yeah, I get it.
You haven't run the ball the whole game.
No.
You have no evidence that you have a back that you can punch in there and get a yard, and you never have your quarterback, even though he's a big, strong guy, sneak. So it was. I mean, if he loses that game after that thing, he's got to be gone, right? I mean,
They might just leave him there. Yeah.
He's been getting so much pressure that out there already. They were blaming him but they got a lousy defense. So, the quarterback's great and they're putting up great numbers, but they got a lousy defense, which, and we got a lousy defense and a team that's putting up great numbers except in the clutch. So anyway, turnovers, of course,
Oh yeah, I mean they lost another. Did they lose another fumble yesterday? I'm trying to remember.
That was a stolen ball from Hawkins.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
he just pulled it out of his hands. It wasn't like he put it on the ground, but he was. I didn't see this or notice it, but I was listening to the K-Fan call in for a while. I was in the car yesterday,
You're a
And
strong man. You're a strong man for doing that.
oh, I love it. I love listening to fans after bad losses
It is
because
fun.
they're so crazy. But they didn't think he was hustling properly to get the ball back to the quarterback and keep the
Yeah.
game moving down there. They thought he was lollygagging it on that. They had plenty of time anyway. So
Until 23 seconds elapsed, they had plenty of time. Like if they would have just snapped it
yeah,
even at 20 seconds, they have time for 4 plays. That's all you need. You're at the 10. It's first and goal. All you need is time for 4 plays.
our Twins get terrible amount of ridicule for analytics. They're all
Yes.
driven. Well, these guys spend, they got 22 coaches out there,
Yeah.
and they all these times. Well, we don't want them to be able to adjust to our offense. We don't want them to be able to substitute. Yet, I've said this earlier in the show here, but early in the podcast, but not get your play that you want to run in the game. And then run another one, and then run another one, instead of screwing around like a bunch of clowns. It was ridiculous.
I still got to think that the quarterback drives the head coach crazy a lot more than he wants to let on. There was an exchange on the sideline yesterday after Cousins missed a throw on third down where you could see O'Connell saying something to him, and I don't think O'Connell's blameless in all this. I think he's only an okay play caller at this point. Like he doesn't have the great feel for it yet. I think his offense is fine. Like they get down the field, but situationally, I don't think he's great. But he's probably thinking, okay, this is what I wanted. But even if you can't hear what I wanted, you've got to know you're a 12-year veteran. Like you've got to know the clock in the situation. It's got to be driving him nuts. Like Kirk, do something.
Yeah. Well, the crowd was apparently half the crowd yelling, "Clock it, spike it!"
Right. Kirk's just had his hands on his ears like he's.
Geez, that might end up being the profile of this team for if they don't make the playoffs. That film clip of Kirk looking confused. I love these people that think now, well, we can give up. We'll trade him to the Jets for a first round.
Yes.
And the Jets don't want Kirk Cousins. Okay? They don't want Kirk Cousins.
Now, it's probably not going to happen. It's just a fun thing to talk about now because they're 0-3. Patrick.
It's not going. The Jets aren't. Well, first of all, they got they already got an incredible amount of money invested in the other guy who's not playing.
Yes.
Did they really want to take on this guy for $30 million?
Hey, I've told you last week, if they trade for him, all they're taking on is the prorated part of $10 million. So if they traded for him at the deadline, it'd be about $5.5 million. It's not the money isn't the problem. I think the problem is trading a quarterback mid-year, and Kirk's got a no trade clause and all that stuff.
He'd want to get a contract out of it, an extension, wouldn't he? If you tried
that's the problem because Rodgers is under contract next year. So
yes, for 35 or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. So you can't pay two guys that next year. That's not going to happen.
Who wants him? Let him stay here and have all the Kirk worshipers tell him how good he is. He still threw under the sticks because he couldn't step away from the rush. He was going to get sacked. Well, just because he's Kirk, he was going to get sacked. Okay. Target. That's why he was going to get sacked. These people want him to have the greatest offensive line of all time and never get any pressure. Well, he's a statue. I don't care. Once in a while, he'll run 5 feet, but that's about it. So,
Grand Casino would like to take a moment and salute the true football fan. The passion, the hope, the anticipation, that incomparable feeling of winning. Grand Casino would also like to take a moment to remind you that you can find all that anticipation, thrill, and winning at Grand Casino. Grand Casino. Let your story begin.
I will say this, Patrick. The Vikings sure did the Gophers a favor by losing the way they did, because I did worry, as much as you warned everybody in July that the football gods were coming for the Vikings. I warned people on Twitter, I'm still calling it Twitter, last Saturday night that, guys, it feels like one of those football weekends. Do you really even dare watch the Vikings on Sunday after what had happened to the Gophers?
Yeah.
They took the heat. They took the heat off the Gophers a little bit, but we got to get back to them because, man, losing a 31-10 lead at Northwestern, a game that was as soon as their running back, as soon as Taylor ran for that touchdown on fourth down, that game was over. That moment, the game was for all intents and purposes over. I'm just casually watching it. It's getting kind of late, and the kids are still up, and my wife's like, what game is this? Are you invested in this? And it starts to get worse and worse. I'm like, well, I wasn't, but now I am. Like, what's going on here? Like, she's like, why are you shouting at the TV? I'm like, look at what's happening here. It was unbelievable that they could lose that game in that fashion.
I watched it again last night on I was clicking, and late at night, and they had Big Ten reruns these 60-minute versions of the game, with a bunch of sponsors in there. So I clicked just to see who they had on. It was the Gophers, the last 10 minutes of that game. By the way, I talked about the Rams quarterback completing more passes against the Vikings than anybody
Chargers,
had.
yes.
Chargers. The Chargers quarterback yesterday. Well, Northwestern started playing football in 1882 and never rallied they had never entered the fourth quarter being behind by 21 points or more and won. The record was 20 against Illinois in 1992. I saw that on a tweet from a guy who covered them. So, but here's the deal. That last drive that they let them score on was one of the ugliest things I have ever seen in my life. Clock is running. They trying to get out of bounds, and they can't get out of bounds. And this quarterback is terrible. And, he kind of wobbling the ball. How did they possibly ever? They had him stop like six times.
Yes. There was like, just tackle him. Tackle him when the game is over. Just tackle him.
And even at the end, you got 6 seconds left, and and 7 guys guarding the goal line, and somehow they let this guy get open for a pass. It was brutal. It was. I think it's the worst loss I've ever seen the Gophers. Now Mace had some
Michigan for impact. For impact.
That was Michigan.
Yes, I know.
Good.
Yes.
And they discovered that if they throw a little screen pass to the right to that back, he can get 20 yards every time. This was Northwestern in complete chaos down there with about 12 guys that bailed out on them when the hazing scandal started. And they won one Big Ten game in the previous 2 years. Is that
something like that? They were on like an 11-game conference losing streak, something like that.
They won the Big Ten West, and then they were 1-8 and 0-9, I think.
Yeah.
So but all that said, you look at them athletically; those are Division II athletes. You look at most of them, or like they got some feisty guys, but they aren't great athletes. The kid from Maple Grove, Evan Hall, he was a good athlete, but he's not there anymore. Their ace running back. You let a collection of just ordinary athletes come back from 21 points, and then how about the allowing the guy on the first play from
overtime? Yeah.
I wave it at hey, here I am. Throw me the ball. Lob me the ball down here. Boy, did they. How many Gophers got sucked up on that trickeration?
We're not good on trick plays. The Vikings had a little struggle with the Keenan Allen double pass as well, because on that play, 2 guys were open by about 15 yards. That was what we saw in the replay.
Okay, now here's the deal. But Fleck offensively, first of all,
still can't throw when they need to.
Yeah, well, plus kicking a field goal at the start of over from the 2-yard line. Get a touchdown or don't get a touchdown. You're going to lose. If you kick a field goal, You haven't stopped them now in about a half hour. And what are you doing? And then punting from his own 36-yard line.
And then the poor guy downing it 3 yards deep in his end zone.
But twice, didn't they? They punted from down in there in the first half too, right? They punted from.
I don't remember I don't remember the one in the first half. I just remember that one was like,
inside 40. They punted.
And it wasn't a big down and distance either. It was like 4th and 3, maybe, I think.
4th and 3, yeah. 4th and 3. Plus, okay, Taylor's having a good day. Even the greatest backs get a blow once in a while, right? You don't hand the ball to the same guy 12 plays in a row. But this guy does. He did it last year with Abraham against Iowa, and he finally fumbled on his 42nd carry or something. And this kid's a freshman, and he looks great. But, you can't give him the ball 25 straight times because now all of a sudden now he's over on the sidelines. He's banged up. So, I don't know. Horrible. Everybody loves him, but I'm not everybody's also saying the same thing. He's not a good in-game coach.
No, he's not.
It is amazing. You take that personality, right?
Yeah.
And a big over-the-top personality, and yet you get a guy, one of the most conservative coaches you're ever going to run into. And those two things don't correlate to each other, do they? You'd meet him and you'd think he's a riverboat gambler type.
Yeah, a guy who's going to throw it 50 times. He's not. He wants to run the ball. He's like a 1985 head coach superimposed on a 2023 body, a 2023 like mentality of recruiting and everything else.
He coaches to avoid defeat.
Yes.
Coaches, this is a completely different thing. But hockey back in the day, 30 years ago, they wanted to outscore you.
Yes.
Now they don't want to give you any goals, right? Now it's not go out and get 6. It's to hold the other team to 1 or 2. That's what he's doing. He doesn't want to go get 40. He wants to go get 22 and beat you. But meanwhile, the Big Ten West might be worse than it was last year. Iowa, 4 first downs against Penn State.
I know.
4 downs. Wisconsin isn't, a big powerhouse. He already beat Nebraska. Illinois is terrible this year. Purdue's terrible this year. The West is. If you go 6-3, you're going to win the West. So
yes,
it's not hopeless, but it's because they did sneak out that Nebraska game. But this is one of the 5 worst losses. And I've only been covering the Gophers. I only saw my first Gopher game in person in 1954.
It's almost 70 years ago, and you
at 9 years old. I've only been following these guys closely since then.
That's amazing.
And one of the worst ever to me. This was not so much the worst, but the impossible. The impossible defeat. Now, Mace had the one where you were kicking off with 8 seconds to go, and somehow Purdue got him to stop the clock with 1 second and run in their field goal kicker for a 50-yarder. Now, that was incredible. But Mace had some ungodly losses, but not to a team like this.
No.
So, anyway.
If we may revive...
You might get tickets, by the way, for the Louisiana Lafayette.
Yep, that was the best part I saw. I don't know what account it was. It might have been Gopher Hole. I think it might have been like a scheduled tweet, but it was like 11 p.m. that night. It was like pack the stadium for this game, and it was like 12 replies on it. All of them were like, "Read the room. What are you talking about? Nobody's going to be there." If we may revisit something you said last week that I want to make into a recurring bit. Boy, there's been a lot of people wrong, haven't there? Who is the most wrong this weekend in the footballing that went awry?
Now, in what sense.
Who messed up the worst, or who made the worst decision out of all this?
Oh, I got Fleck. Being the worst with the punts and the not being aggressive against this god awful team he was playing, and yeah, I got them, and being wrong. So far, they're wrong about the freshman quarterback too, or sophomore quarterback, or
He was
whatever.
okay. He was okay yesterday on Saturday.
Fast. He has not been an upgrade on Tanner Morgan, except when he runs once in a while out of the pocket.
Yes.
Not, he might be, he hasn't played a lot, but I mean, compared to Tanner, who played like
17 years, yeah.
But they've been wrong so far. I know Chip likes him a lot as an athlete, and we talked about him earlier this year. But so far, they've been wrong about him being a future NFL player or something like that. They've been wrong about that.
Yes, I think the Fleck gets it locally. I think Sean Payton might be.
Oh my God!
About 70 points that the Dolphins hang on him. The league must hate Sean Payton so much if they would put up 70 on them. By the way.
Oh, well, they could have. The crowd was chanting for him to kick a field goal. They would have set an all-time regular season record if he wants to. And who's coach? Oh, that
McDaniels, right? Josh McDaniels.
No, Mike McDaniel.
Oh, Mike McDaniel. Sorry, yeah, not Josh McDaniels. Yeah.
Looks like the physics teacher from, but he didn't have the guts to do it. But man, alive, would have that been something?
And you were saying they let Russ play that whole game.
Russ played every stand. Russ every pass. Peyton it was like Peyton saying, "If I'm going to take this ass kicking, you're going to be out here with." I think we all thought, okay, they gave up a lot for Russ, but they were great quarterback. But who out in Seattle was smart enough to know he was cooked?
Yeah, right. Pete Carroll must have known because that's kind of his show out there. But man, yeah, they got out of that one at just the right time.
Oh, and they're paying Peyton like $9-10 million a year or something like that too.
It's amazing.
Man, and you know that all over the league, people are saying they're happy as can be, aren't they? Because
right.
He is not terribly popular, I don't think, because he's such a maniac. But how good's Tua all of a sudden? By the way,
yeah, he's healthy. He's very good. 23 of 26 for 309 and 4 touchdowns yesterday. That'll work.
Yeah, well, yeah, the deal is, way back when, Saban, who's, another guy he likes to get beat, but he made the decision to take out a national championship winning quarterback, Jalen Hurts, and bench him to pay Tua as a younger. That's how good Tua is when he's good.
Yeah.
Because and Hurts now a very good NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
But this guy benched him to put Tua in there in the middle of the season, and that's how much arm talent he has.
Yes.
What we call that
arm talent. Good quarterback, arm talent. Yeah.
He is. But oh man, putting up 70 when the points are as hard to come by as they are in the NFL now too. It's
amazing.
It was. That's the league, man. No,
10 touchdowns. They had 10 touchdowns. That's even it's just like from a quantity of time perspective, that's hard to do. It's like 2.5 touchdowns every quarter. That's 5 touchdowns per half.
Yeah. Hey, I got a question for you. When do we start 2 Monday night games?
I don't know. It bothers me. I don't like it. Why are we doing that? They used to do them where it was like, if they did them sometimes, it was like they had like one that was early and one that was late because you had like a West Coast game. Now they're like 1 hour apart.
That like a special September deal or something like that?
I don't know. I don't care. I don't care for it. I don't care for it.
Last week I said, why did somebody get lightning out yesterday or something?
Right.
I thought maybe they got weathered out or something. And all of a sudden, there's 2 games on. Yeah, I know. I agree with you. Hey, I was around when it started, and it became a phenomenon. And newspapers all over the country were flying in to cover Monday night football games, no matter who was playing.
Right.
It was a national phenomenon, and now they got 2 of them. So that caught me by surprise last week. So,
Patrick,
anyway.
let's transition to the Twins for a little while, if we may. The good news from the weekend, if you're a sports fan in this market, is they did clinch on Friday. Got to clinch on their home field for the first time, I think, since 2010, and beat the Angels 2 out of 3. But the concern for me, we can talk about the good news that they clinched, but you didn't give me a lot of optimism when you wrote about Royce Lewis and his hamstring. What do you think? What's the shot of him playing in the playoffs, do you think?
I don't know about the first 3, which with these guys will probably be that'll probably be the end. But I don't, you couldn't get any. They usually try to give you the optimistic spin, right?
Yeah.
And Friday they were not. They were. I mean, he said it's a grade 1. Lewis said, and then
Okay.
Rocco, who hadn't been around because of his babies, said it's a grade 1 plus. He made sure to mention that. So it's a hammy too, and I don't know how long do people miss with those? Usually a month, right? So if it's a pull, it's not a tear or anything like that. But here's the problem with it. If you put them out there a little early again, let's say you get through the first round, if you put him out there a little early again and it isn't quite healed and he yanks it again, then you're out. Then you don't have him for sure. So
Right.
I don't know, but I also think when you've lost 18 straight playoff games, you got to use him if he's available.
Yes.
So only game you can only play 1 game because he doesn't come off he couldn't come off the injured list until Sunday, I don't think. So I was counting up 10 days anyway. And the left side of their infield suddenly got wiped out. And I mean, as much as we get upset with Carlos not driving in runs like we'd like to see and hitting into double plays, that's been the strength of their team since the middle of August, the left side of the infield.
Yeah.
Lewis being great at third, Correa being this fantastic shortstop, and now you're playing without both of them. Now, Kyle Farmer, who I really did not like much that year at all, has actually played good shortstops, and they had to put him in there. I see they don't have any other. They're going to have to call up an infielder here this week, I think, Austin Martin or somebody, because they had to play Farmer yesterday when he had some little injury because they don't have any other shortstops.
Yeah.
So they got all these outfielders. They got like 9 left-handed hitting infielders, and Castro's got a sore back. But boy, what a godsend that guy's been for him.
I mean, just in general, this team has better depth than I remember a lot of their teams having. Like they're the 4th and 5th, the whatever out of the position players, like 10 through 14, 10 through 13 on the roster, way better than they've been the last couple of years.
Yeah, like if Solano can get a hit, and
Farmer and Castro and
interesting thing here the last week too is Matt Wallner. Now Matt Wallner comes up, he's really good. And then he's really bad for like 2 weeks, and you say, okay, the league's got him figured out. Now he's getting on base again, getting walks and getting some hits. So he's just a big guy who's going to run hot and cold, I guess. But he's been an addition. But I would think they're going to make a roster move here, as they head out on as they play the last week of the season to get another infielder in there. You can't, and they can promote Brooks Lee or Austin Martin. It's somebody said that if you couldn't be eligible for the postseason unless you were on the 40 man on September 1st, but that's not true. If you're in the organization, they can and they can get you on the list. And
like Kirilloff a few years ago, right? Wasn't that the same?
I'd forgotten. And then Kirilloff, he made his major league debut batting in the playoffs. So yeah, that year. So yeah, they can. I mean, they're gonna have to do something. But Sonny Gray, it's amazing. Sonny Gray, the number of wins they've avoided giving him is incredible.
They're 14 and 17 when he starts, even though he's been their best pitcher from start to finish.
Yeah, he has. He's been. He's kind of poked his head ahead of Pablo here. Now I got a question for you.
Okay.
If you are going to post on your scoreboard that the Twins have set a record for the most hitters they've struck out as a team.
Yes.
In the middle of the game, and then a little bit later, you set a major league record for most strikeouts by your team.
Yes.
You put that on the board?
You probably should. It feels a little bit negative, though. We don't do that with the home team.
You could say. On the other hand, we just set a major league record for the most times striking out. I believe that you should, in the interest of equity or fairness, put that on the scoreboard too. That and let people, chuckle about it. Ryan Jeffers taking strike 3 here. We just set a world record.
Yes.
And an even 1,600 now as they go. Now it might be hard to, add big numbers to that total when you're going out to play Oakland and Colorado, but with those two teams. But I really think they should have posted that yesterday. There's a little bit of humor. You could have kind of an emoji with his hands out to the side. Think of that. I think they should have posted it.
No, Atlanta's got 299 home runs now with 6 left.
Bombas are going to make it to you. I think 307, they'll get that easy. How good is that Acuna, man?
Oh,
I know
40-60 season.
I know stolen bases are easier than they've ever been because of the new rules, but to have a guy like most teams wouldn't allow a guy to run like that. To one of your best players afraid he'd hurt himself or something. But man, what a great player he is! And the thing about the American League here right now is I put this Twins in category now. I didn't for a long time. There's 7 good teams, so whoever they play in the first round is going to be a good club. So
yes,
Seattle's a good club. Houston's a good club. Texas started hitting again, so there's 7 good teams, and 6 of them are going to make the playoffs. One thing I was writing the other day is they won 85 games and then they won the World Series.
Yeah.
Here in 87.
Yeah.
So they'll win 85 again. Except that year you had to win 8 games.
Yes.
2 teams made the playoffs. Now 6. Now you got to win 13. If you're playing the first round, you have to win 13. It's a completely different animal.
It's easier than ever to make the playoffs. It's harder than ever to win the World Series. Especially if you don't get one of those buys, you got to go through 3 teams just to get to the World Series. Now it's amazing. Hey, before we go, you saw the best football of the whole weekend, didn't you?
Fantastic! It was Gustavus and Augsburg, and it was at the Augsburg nice stadium, and the theory being, okay, it's always Bethel and St. John's, but maybe this year it won't be because Augsburg's really good and Gustavus is good. And they both had good years last year. And so Augsburg gets itself in a hole and they're coming back. And finally, they have, they have one last desperation drive. And they're on their 4th and 16 on like their own 30-something.
Fleck would have punted.
By then, Fleck would have. There's 20 seconds to go or something. Like 30 seconds to go. And so I was standing on the field by then because, the interviews and the MIC, you just go out there.
Right, which is great. Love that.
Yeah, but they try to throw their pass to this Breitbach, their great receiver. And there's about a touch down by the goal line, and the guy throws the flag and gives him the ball at the 2-yard line. And I know Darren Lampkier. He's a very fired up guy, and I think he's been known to take the Lord's name in vain once in a while when he's upset. And I can only imagine the screaming that was going on across the way on the Augsburg sidelines. So they put him on the 2-yard line, and they 15 yards. So it gives them
right.
rally. So 23, and then they immediately throw a touchdown pass and go ahead. So it's 31-27. There's 22 seconds when they kick off. The Augsburg kid brings it back 25 yards to the 43, and they stop the clock, for that. Right. And they got one timeout left. And anyway, they end up scoring with one. They throw 2 pass completions, end up scoring with 1 second to go, and wins the game 33-31. The amazing thing about football, I keep saying this, modern football, is how good the receivers are.
Yes.
D3, these guys are all making catches that you can't believe. They're covered, and that's. Even D3 has some really excellent receivers, and Augsburg's got 3 of them, and then Gustavus has got this kid that was unstoppable, breakbox. So it was a great game. I had a good time. I like Gustavus, great little stadium. If you get a nice sunny Saturday in the next couple of weeks with the leaves changing down there in the Minnesota Valley, it's great because you can kind of look down there from the stadium. It's terrific. So
the antidote to everything you saw otherwise on Saturday and Sunday is maybe a little Division III football. Everybody, it's a good idea. Get out and get some fresh air and get some.
Right back the bounce in Mike Grimm and Daryl Thompson voices was just the optimism, the happiness as they go tearing apart this miserable Northwestern team. And you get out of the car and you come in and they lost the game.
Unbelievable. Well,
I'd say Fleck wins the Dunce of the Week award. So anyway.
We'll see what bounty they serve up to us next week. But this was, if it was not a gift to Minnesota sports fans, it was a gift to us on Monday morning.
But it just said, get your tickets early for the Lafayette game.
Yes, indeed.
You might spend $2, to get in.
All right, Patrick. Thank you.